save a certain percentage of your income, invest a certain percentage of your savings.
Mhm.
And, if you have bills, make sure that you have that percentage set out and that you have it ready each paycheck you're getting.
Hey, my feel good friends. This week I am coming in hot with one of my favorite people in the whole dang world. I swear. I know I say that about every guest, but Jaylin is one of those people where you can just feel his energy even when he's 1,000 miles away, whether it's through the screen, through your earbuds, whatever it is. I know you're going to love this conversation with my friend Jaylin. He is actually one of the kind of OG Feel Good Social podcast listeners who then hit me up in the DMs on Instagram, ended up joining my course, The Social Map. But we don't really talk about the course too much because this man just has tons to say about not only mindset and working through issues and staying positive in your life and setting boundaries and all of these things. I'm like, whoa, what age are you again, my friend? But he is also super, super educated when it comes to finance. And he drops some really actionable tips to help you make small steps toward being financially secure in the future. And he gets super passionate about it. I love it. I absolutely enjoyed talking to this guy, and I'm so glad he was able to come on the show. I know you're going to love our combo. So if you do, please share this episode to your Instagram stories and make sure you tag me at Feel Good Social and also tag Jaylin at Jaylin is alive, which we'll talk about a little bit later in the episode. But he would absolutely love to see it as well. We'll both reshare it. I would love to give you a follow and just connect with you in the DMs on Instagram. All right, my friend, let's dive into this awesome conversation with a super awesome dude. Hey, friend, and welcome to the Feel Good Social Podcast. I'm your host, Kinsey, and I'm here to help you market your business in a genuine way that works without wasting your precious time. On this show, we chat about social media strategy and mindset tips with a focus on, you guessed it, feeling good. So sit back, relax, and enjoy some genuine conversation for the good of your biz. Do you know what your brand vibe is on Instagram? I have a new fun quiz that's just for you, my friend. I, of all people, know how hard it is to figure out how the heck you're supposed to translate your brand to the gram. And with this quick 7-question quiz, we will help you hone in on your brand's personality, voice, and visuals so that you can show up consistently and create content that looks beautiful and feels on brand for you. This quiz is so awesome. It's been a long time coming, and I know that you're going to have a lot of fun with it. Plus, the results will help you show up in the best way for you. If you'd like to check out our new brand vibe quiz, just head to feelgoodsocial.com/quiz. Pretty easy. Head to feelgoodsocial.com/quiz to find out what your brand's vibe is on social media and start showing up there for your brand. Hi, Jaylin. Thank you so much for joining me. I am seriously so excited to have you on the show. I already introduced you a little bit in the intro, but I'd love to hear from you. Who are you? What do you do? And who do you serve?
Yes, ma'am. I am Jaylin Moore. Oh, all I can say is that dreams do come true. I've always wanted to be on this podcast, and it feels so good to finally be here. So the question was, who am I? Who do I serve? I should know this by now. I watched it.
Who are you? What do you do? And who do you serve? I know it's just like kind of automatic for me at this point.
Right. So what do I do? Currently, I am a mortgage loan officer, and I write loans for people and do home things. That's kind of my boring daytime job. But at nighttime, I'm a total nerd about finances, guitar, and video games. And then who do I serve? Well, I serve humanity. I really love people. I love community service. I love doing everything that it takes to motivate others and put people in a higher wavelength, because I know that there's so much bad things going on in the world right now. And I don't want everyone to be bogged down. I especially do it with my family, and they always come to me for like positive reinforcement and stuff. So that's who I serve.
Yeah. Oh, Man, seriously, every time that I chat with you, I get so just like lifted up. I feel like, your energy is so wonderful all the time. And, the fact that you are just so motivational and just so great at bringing the energy and making people feel good about themselves, and you do finances, I'm like, hello, superhuman. So I can't wait to talk to you about that. But I think first, I'd like to start a little bit with what has been your story in life? Can you tell us a little bit about the journey that you've taken over the
Oh
past
man.
however many years old you are? I don't know if I actually know how old you are, but you don't have to say.
Okay. Well, we're gonna spill all the tea today because I've been waiting to tell someone of my story, man. Like, it's such a wild ride. I am currently 20 years old.
Mhm.
I graduated college with my bachelor's degree January, February, March, April. In April, I did not really come from a very well off family, a very stable family. My mom raised us by herself. She has me and my two sisters. We now have our stepfather, who we truly love. He's a great guy. But, just growing up and not having as much as other kids, it just teaches you like you got to work, work, work when you want something. And I think that's really where the positivity came from too, is because I always had to keep that positive mindset and realize that right now is not where I stop. I can keep on going and keep on going forward, like don't give up because it'll always get better. And I've been trying to keep myself on that wavelength now that I'm an adult too, because just so much happens when you're an adult, guys. Like for anyone who's listening who's like under 18 or not like fully into your adult life, just stay positive because there's going to be a few setbacks that maybe you're not going to see coming, but you just got to work through it and stay yourself. Never lose who you are and never lose sight of what your mission is, what your goal in life is. But there's just a lot, so much. Like I was president of a few clubs. I got like a bowling trophy once. There's just a lot. I have so many stories about myself, but that's basically who I am. I'm a young guy who grew up in Florida and just wants to spread positivity. Also a professional economist. So
Yeah. I love this so much. And yeah, I did not know. We have a 10-year age difference, but I still feel like I'm becoming an adult in a way. So I'm so glad you shared that. And I do think that's so true. A lot of times I think that the hard things we go through help to give us a perspective and stay a little bit more positive during like the hard struggles. I even find that in entrepreneurship when I'm having a bad day, I feel like it's so easy to get sucked into the whole, oh my gosh, the world is ending because
yeah,
Instagram won't let me post this thing for my client. And then I have to kind of take a step back and give myself that perspective and be like, it's going to be fine, Kins. Instagram's not the biggest deal in the world. And, you've been through worse. It's going to be good.
right, exactly.
So I love how we got connected because I still call your podcast review the official review of the Feel Good Social podcast. Basically, you, I think, found my podcast and then wrote a review, reached out to me on Instagram in the DMs, which I absolutely so enjoy, and then signed up for the social map, my online course, and all of those things. It's been
Yeah,
so much
actually,
fun.
the thing about that is like I was working my Domino's job and I was not happy. Like I turned on my radio and one of these days, like I look up like I don't know, I'm like searching through Apple Podcasts and then I stumble upon like your podcast and then I hear your voice and you're just like, hey, my feel good listeners, what's up? I'm Kinsey. And then you started talking about like social media. And I think I was looking it up because I want to start a social media or do something like that. And I'm just like, I really like her message. And you're like, are you feeling what I'm putting down? And I'm like, yes, I am feeling what you're putting down. What? So like, I really enjoyed like those first few episodes that I watched because I went all the way back and like started with episode one where you were like in the closet and like you didn't have
Mhm.
any equipment. I was like, this girl is doing her thing. So, I just had to leave the review and you can go ahead and tell them review or I can tell them like,
Yeah, if you want to tell them, if you
yeah, I was like, this podcast is bomb AF. Literally, that's the whole comment. This podcast is bomb AF because I was like, this is an awesome podcast. And then I reached out to you on Instagram and you responded. And I was like, wow, this is so cool. Like the podcast lady is actually talking to me. And then we just grew a friendship from there. And that was super cool. Oh,
Yeah.
fun tip, guys. Kinsey actually came and spoke for one of my clubs at college. She actually spoke at my entrepreneur club, and that was super fun, and everyone loved her. So
That makes me so happy. Seriously. It's so funny because I am a big podcast listener myself. And sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, like this person's in my ear every week. Like they're like, I put them on a pedestal and whatnot. But for me, on like my side of the mic, it's like, I love hearing from my listeners. I absolutely adored hearing from you. Seriously, like it was still pretty early on in my podcasting journey, and I didn't hear from a lot of the people on the other side of the microphone, or the other side of the earbuds, I guess I should say. And it was just so nice to hear from you and get that like your positive energy. It just comes through the screen or the voice message or whatever you're using to share. And it was just so nice. So I'm seriously so glad we connected. One thing I would love to chat with you about is I know that you signed up for the social map and we went through that whole journey, and it was so fun to have you in the course, of course. But, I realized that you were in your senior year of college, I think,
mhm.
right? And so, can you tell us a little bit about your journey going through your senior year? Because I know that social media kind of became a bigger, distraction than you need it to be.
Yeah. So, I had so much going on during my senior year of college. I was working part time as like a worship leader at church. I was the leader of the entrepreneur club, president. I was in gaming club. I was doing so much. And then on top of that, it was so cool because I had my best friend. She was my camera girl, and she would come and she would record me like playing guitar in different spots. So my brand, for everyone who didn't know, was Making Dot More, and I would do inspirational guitar videos. So just interesting facts about guitar, or like interesting quotes from guitarists that are really motivational and inspirational, and different stuff like that. And it actually grew considerably. I got to around 70 or 80 followers, almost 100, which was amazing. And I was like, wow, this is super cool. And, it was such a great experience just going through that, and also going through the social map course, because Kinsey really breaks it down for you in the social map course. And, you can buy the course by itself, but it's really great when you're actually in the cohort with all the other people, because you guys get on Zooms and then you get to talk to everyone else in the social map. And I had really gotten attached to some of the other people in the group, like Tawny. She was super cool. Oh man, my best friend. I'm forgetting her name right now.
Shelby.
Shelby. I have not talked to her so long. Miss LaVerry. She's great, amazing
Mhm.
lady. And I got into this space of just loving being who I was on social media. It was amazing. And then, like all things, it kind of had to come to an end because college gets really hard during that last final squeeze, and you can't really keep up with everything. So I had to like take a sabbatical from it. Man, I want to tell you guys, and there's a very important lesson in here. Do not overexert yourself. Do
Mhm.
not overexert yourself. Do not over leverage yourself. Choose something that's going to further you. Like I can jump back onto the social media train now that I got my degree.
Mhm.
But imagine if I tried to keep on doing all that stuff. I probably would have not been able to build my social media page due to all the stress. I probably wouldn't have got my degree, and I probably wouldn't have done anything, and I would have lost it all. So know when you need to take a step back from some stuff, work on yourself, and then jump back on it. That is the lesson I learned in that. So
Oh my gosh. And so important to learn. And the fact that you learned it in college, great. I mean, hopefully you won't have to learn it again, but it happens.
yeah,
Burnout happens to the best of us. And that's so true, like throughout your life and in your business, especially like priorities, you know what I mean? And that's a part of my messaging when it comes to social media is I know it's not the most important thing in the world. And I will totally say that straight up to anyone who asks me. And so that's why, whenever I started my business and I heard all of these people shouting about you have to be on all the platforms every day, creating this content, this content, this content, all the things. And I was kind of like, this doesn't feel good to me. You know what I mean? That was actually a big part of my like shift in my business and my shift in my business name, even to feel good social and whatnot, is because I really believe in figuring out how you can make your life work for you, how you can make your business work for you, how you can make social media work for you. And it doesn't have to be the most important thing. So let's show up on social media in a way that works with your lifestyle, that you can stay consistent with, that will get you the best results for what you can do. And for you in college, I was like so proud of you when you're like, nope, making the executive decision in my life to get off these platforms because I need to get this stuff done. Like social media is not my priority right now. And I feel like a lot of new entrepreneurs struggle with that when they're trying to spread themselves too thin over too many things. It happens so often, even like in the way you create your business. I don't know if you've heard this before, but people are always saying like niche down, niche down, niche
Oh
down,
yeah.
and it's so true. Like we try to do too many things within our business too, I think, and it's hard.
Oh yeah, for sure. I believe that's what I was trying to do too. I think you told me the exact same thing when I was doing my guitar stuff. I was like, I gotta do this, I gotta give out t-shirts, I gotta do all this. And you're like, calm down. Uh, we can, you seem to have a good thing going with the training you do with your guitar and how you're playing it. So just focus on that. Don't focus on all the other stuff.
I mean, I had to tell myself that too, man. So I would love to ask you, did it give you any anxiety when you actually did like delete your accounts? Because I think you deleted your two Instagram accounts and Facebook, right? And
Yeah.
I think that sometimes people feel a little bit anxiety there or like thinking about possibly doing that. How did you feel during that process?
So it's kind of crazy actually, but I'm kind of like a phoenix. Every 1,000 years they reincarnate and they come back to life. So I've actually had more accounts, like personal accounts. I've never had like a professional account like the guitar page I had, but I've had like personal accounts that I've just, once I got through with the stage of life, I'm just like, okay, time to reset. So I've just done away with it. And I don't know if that's necessarily healthy. I think that it's very refreshing, kind of like a detox in a
Mhm.
sense, just to download, like get out of the social media space for a little bit and start completely fresh and over. I mean, save your important like memories, but then you realize how much that you don't need to rely on social media so much.
Mhm.
I mean, it's a very, very effective and useful tool, but then we get like constantly craving for social media. And I don't want to one day be scrolling through Instagram, right? And I'm with my family and it's like an important moment and I miss it because I'm like super into
Right.
my phone. Or like once I have children one day, I don't want them to be like scrolling through their phone when we're having family time and I'll never have those moments again. So it gave me anxiety, but not as much because I've done it before. That's the
Mhm.
short. See, I talk too much. I talk so much.
You do not know. Seriously, like I love this so much. I'm like over here giving you I always think of like my hand signals and emojis, whatever that emoji is, the pump up emoji. Because seriously, like I don't think that like we're all different as humans. And I love the analogy that you made with the phoenix. Like, ugh, firstly, I'm just like, yeah, you are a phoenix. But also like um I was listening to a podcast the other day and it's so funny. I remember walking past the meat section in the grocery store as I was listening to this moment. It's so funny when like things set in your memory and you're like, I know where I was when I heard someone say this. And yet I don't remember who said this. But long story short, they were talking about how sometimes it we give ourselves so much anxiety thinking about doing something that we think is going to ruin our lives, right? And there's always going to be like two things that might happen if you take a deep dive and you take a plunge somewhere doing something that's scary and it's going to give you anxiety or whatever it is. Like, either one, you're going to find out it's not as scary as you thought it was going to be, that you've been like worrying about for months and months and months. And all of a sudden you do it and you're like, oh, that wasn't that bad. Or you might go down in like a burning ball of flames, but the person was like, but then you'll be reborn as a phoenix, right? And so I love that analogy so much. And I think I'm the same way, man. Like, honestly, when you were saying that, what was coming up for me is I have two Instagram accounts. I have my Feel Good Social account that I started 2 years ago now, 2.5 years ago now. And I have my personal account that I started back in college. Back in 2010, like when Instagram
Yeah.
started. And I don't post on my personal account as much because of like personal reasons, but also because I think I've changed so much as a human and I've grown so much as a human. And you just saying that right now is making me think, man, it might be kind of nice to like just like delete my personal account or restart it, like restart fresh
Yeah.
and like have people follow me. Cause I don't know, there's people who follow you throughout your life and like who you've connected with throughout your life who you would love to stay connected with, but still you were a different person when you knew them. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Does that make sense? I love that you just shared
For
that.
sure. Like, I totally understand that. And that's exactly what happens. It's like when you reconnect with whoever sees your account, because they're going to see it. Like, that's just how this world works. This crazy world of social media. They're going to recommend your new account, even if like you're in a total different state and you're a total different person, totally different name. They're still going to recommend it. I don't know how it happens. It's like a Google thing. It's so scary. But the people who hit follow again, you know that they are your friends. And usually you can tell or censor, right, who you want following you and who you don't. And I feel like it's super awkward when you go to a really old account and start unfollowing people. You're just like, I don't really talk to you anymore. Unfollow, blah, 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 blah. And then they see their followers and they're unfollowing. They're like, why'd you unfollow me? Like, what's going on
Mhm.
here? You haven't been on this account in 10 years. What's up? And you're just like, yikes. So, maybe a new account would work for a lot of people. I know a lot of people just don't use their social media. They just go on there like every 5 years and they're like, oh, this is pretty cool. Scroll, 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 like, and then just don't touch it.
Mhm.
But I enjoy social media and I
Mhm.
enjoy it in a healthy way. I feel like I don't want to overconsume it. So,
Yeah, I love that. And boundary setting is so, so important, whether you're using social media personally or you're using it for your business, I think, right? I was just
Mhm.
making a post about this the other day, how like oh no, oh, you're gonna be very excited. I'm writing the brand vibe book, man.
Yes, let's go.
I know. I knew you asked me about that. I was like, I have to tell Jaylin. And so I was actually typing up this line in the brand vibe book where I was like, and I was kind of talking about my brand story, that transformation, that like kind of pivotal epiphany that like I realized like I was trying to show up as how everyone else was trying to show up in my industry. And it was making me feel icky because, like, I don't want to tell people that they have to show up on every platform every day with fresh content. And I think the line was, I don't want to tell business owners because I'm there myself that they need to be like on call every hour of the day to respond to like a message on Instagram within 5 minutes. Cause that was something that everyone was shouting about when I started, like respond as fast as you can, customer service is key. And I was like, that doesn't make sense for us down to earth entrepreneurs who are just starting our business. Like, I think it's okay to set boundaries. And I think it gives you a little bit of power in your life to set those boundaries when you don't have to respond within 5 minutes. You can respond within 24 hours, 48 hours, however long you want. I have not been checking my email until 3 p.m. every day.
Yeah.
And I'm like happy about it, And I think that too, something I've learned, I don't know if you've learned this when it comes to setting boundaries, but for me, setting boundaries on my end kind of shifts the relationship that I have with other people who I work with and other people who I'm responding to. And I almost feel like it's empowering for both of us in a way.
Yeah, I get
If I'm setting those boundaries, but other people are like, oh, okay, yeah, like respect. And like they feel empowered to do the same or something. I don't know. Have you run into that?
I actually have. Like, so what I do, and I started doing this in like college, it's kind of called time blocking, but I never put a name on it. I
Mhm.
use my calendar and I block out all the times that I'm doing something important. I even block out time for sleep because sleep is very important.
Yeah.
You gotta let people know that I need my sleep to function. Like people try to trample all over your sleep time, so you just gotta say I'm busy.
Mhm.
And so, you know, now that I have that in place, I have a direction, and when you have a direction, people can see that you have a direction and they're like, okay, I respect that he has a certain time that he has to do this. Like me and my cousin start walking at 6:30 and people know that at 6:30, what am I doing? I'm walking with my cousin. So don't ask me to do anything at 6:30. And it's not to be mean, right? It's just because I have self-respect and I have boundaries.
Mhm.
And once you have those boundaries, people see it and they respect you more for it. It's not like you're sitting around and you're not doing anything, right?
Mhm.
And they're like, why isn't this person returning my calls? They're not doing anything right now. No, they know exactly what you're doing right now because you already said it. You've already disclosed it. And a lot of that stuff is communication. Communication with other human beings is so important. Like once people really know your communication style and really know your schedule and what you're actually doing, then they don't get as mean or nasty about like when you can't talk to them because they understand that you're doing important stuff for yourself and they get that and they become more patient that way. So I have run into that.
Yeah. Oh, man. I feel like we're gonna have so many audiogram snippets out of this episode. This is why I love talking to you every time. Cause you're just like every time I'm like, oh my goodness, yes, like thank you. It's like feeding my soul. Um, okay. One more thing on that. And I don't know if you've run into this. One big lesson I've kind of learned too, and it kind of comes with the setting boundaries, is like taking urgency out of the situation, right? And I don't know if you ran into this at all yet, but like I feel like as, a business owner who works with a lot of clients and works with a lot of different emailers and stuff like that, people are
Yeah,
always like, I need this now. I need this now. I need to do this now. And I'm always just kind of like, the boundaries help me to like take the urgency out of situations, right?
yeah,
But I think it's so easy to get sucked into the, oh my gosh, I have to do all the things all the time. And like, usually what I do is just like take a deep breath and be like, is this urgent right now? Or can this wait for 10 minutes, 2 hours, 24 hours, 1 week, whatever it is, right? I don't,
right.
have you run into that one?
Oh, I got a story for you. I have
Yes.
a story for you. So I am like, I've worked on this all my life to be a patient person, a very patient person who doesn't really raise his voice or get angry at anyone, right? One day, I was on the phone with a lady from an insurance company because I was trying to get something for a client. And I had already gotten the document. I just needed a new one, like a new version of it. And we had already gotten it. So I was like, okay, this should be easy. This should take like 2 seconds. I called the lady and she's like, well, I need the authorization from the client. And, we can't really do anything until we get that. And I'm just like, what do you mean we need something from the client? Like, we already got this. And then I stopped. I was like, oh no. Like, I just yelled at this lady. Right. And then she talks to me and she's like, well, sir, we really need the authorization. I was like, my bad. I will definitely get you what you need and we'll definitely handle the situation. Thank you so much. So you really, really, really got to watch out for those moments where you're like, gimme, 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 only thinking about yourself. Like,
Mhm.
I had to learn this the hard way because I am not that kind of person who raises his voice at people. I try to
Mhm.
be very cordial, very prompt, and very gentlemanlike. And I think what really helps with that is just, like you said, taking a deep breath and also realizing like it's not as urgent as it seems. It's not as, oh my gosh, the world is going to end if you don't do this one thing. It's not like, oh my gosh, if I don't get this right now, I'm going to have a heart attack and die. Like the worst situation, the worst thing that can happen is you roll over and die. And I doubt that you getting this contact, you getting getting whatever you need right now is going to cause you to die. So stop being so dramatic. Like literally. And
Yes.
I had to learn that myself. And I was very nice with the lady. And, I apologized right after. I was like, I'm so sorry. I'll get you whatever you need in a very calm, like tone. So
Mhm. I love that. And thank you so much for sharing like that personal story of you doing that. Cause I've definitely like been there on like that side of the situation where I'm like, this is crazy. And usually it's like with my boyfriend, my mom, or like it's usually like me calling my mom being like, Mom, this is not working. And her being like, Kins. Like, okay, fine. I'll take a deep breath because it's so true. It's like you can be that person. It can happen to you. But you know what I love about what you said too is like realizing, I think that that's what starts like all kind of like improvement as humans is like first the awareness, right? That like, wait, hold on. Why did I just show up like this? You know what I mean? Like, what am I
right.
doing? Taking a deep breath and then learning from it. And then also, and I think, and I don't know, tell me what you think about this. I think it has a lot of women struggle with this too, but like holding on to guilt for acting a certain way that was outside of their integrity in the past. You know what I mean? Like I think, and maybe it's just me, and maybe I'm wrong, and it's not just I'm sure it's not just women or anything like that, but I think that we have a lot of pressure on ourselves to like be kind of perfect all the time, and so sometimes like when things happen like that, where it's like, oh, I was like not being the person that I want to be in that moment. And like you can still learn from it and move on from it. But then sometimes we hold on to the guilt of like, I still
Mhm.
acted that way. Did you run into that at all? Or were you able to kind of let go of that?
So that's a whole larger can of worms. Like,
Yeah.
all of my life, I have been changing.
Mhm.
The Jalen of 3 years ago is not the same Jalen as today. Jalen yesterday is not the same Jalen as today.
Mhm.
One thing I learned from, and it was mostly from dating and meeting different people while dating, is that if we get hung up on who we were in the past or any actions that we did in the past, we are impeding our future. So
Mhm.
if you're living in the past, you can't see forward. It's like driving a car, but you're only looking backwards. You're going to crash. You're going to crash. And once you do, you'll still be looking backwards. So you
Mhm.
got to let go of the stuff that you did before and try to make sure that you only do the stuff that you need to or want to and show up as who you want to be now, in the present, and in the future. The only thing that we can do is fix what we do now because you can't change the past. No matter how much you want to change the past, no matter how much you want to go back and do a certain thing, no matter how much you miss a person, you know, and that's a whole different conversation.
Mhm.
You can't change the past. You can only learn from it and make sure that you do learn from it and you move on because if you sit in that guilt, the only thing the guilt is going to do is make it a cycle and you do it again and you repeat it. It's a vicious cycle. It's a very
Mhm.
vicious cycle to get into. And if you constantly think about it, then you're bound to repeat it again. Because what you're doing is you're labeling yourself as someone who does that, right? Oh, I'm a person who raises my voice,
Mm. Mhm.
right? Because you're labeling yourself as that person. But when you move on and you press forward through that guilt, you're not labeling yourself that person anymore. You're like, I am not a person who raised my voice. That was a one time thing and it
Mhm.
won't happen again because I am not that person. Do not label yourself as your mistakes, label yourself as who you are.
Dude, are you sure you're only 20? I'm
Yeah.
over here like, dang. Seriously, Jaylin, you're so amazing. And I love chatting with you every time. And you have like so many different like things that like you can give perspective on and like inspirations to share and different things like that. Like I absolutely love talking with you so much, dude. Thank you so much for coming on the show. But I cannot let you go without letting you just like rant a little bit about finance. And before we start and before we started recording, you were like, I kind of get like a little ranty and a little fired up when it comes to finance stuff. But I do think that this is something that not only like I definitely need to hear, but I would love to share your wisdom with my listeners. So can you share a few of your finance tips when it comes to, what was it? Making sure that you're financially stable when we're older, like small steps you can do.
Small steps and general guidelines.
Mhm.
Small steps and general guidelines. So the thing about life, the reason why you see so many successful people, the reason why you see so many wealthy people is not because they got rich overnight.
Mhm.
Everything that we do is incremental and marginal. We slowly get there by rolling a snowball. You know how if you roll a snowball, it starts small and then it snowballs and it gets bigger. It
Mhm.
gets bigger and bigger until it's this giant thing that's going to take down the whole house. You know, finances are just like that. Usually we start on the opposite spectrum with negative snowball. I don't know what a negative snowball would be, but that's
Uh-huh.
kind of like the symbolism for debt.
Mhm.
So, the first thing is to take care of that, of course. You want to take care of your debt and get rid of all of it. And I don't care if any gurus out there are saying, oh, keep this certain amount of debt. No, get rid of all of it. Debt is it's like a leech. You got to rip them off. You got to get all rid of all this debt. Like it's killing you.
Mhm.
And then after you get rid of the debt, you want to save at least. See, the best thing that I learned by reading all the finance books I learned is
Mhm.
that wealthy people think in percentages. They think in percentages. They don't think in amounts.
Mhm.
Because if you think in percentages, how much ever you're like earning, you're always going to take that percentage out of it, right? So
Mhm.
if you're
Yeah.
earning a small amount, you take that small percentage out. If you're earning a big amount, you take that same percentage out, right? And it just follows you. It grows with you, it shrinks with you, but we're going to hope that you're not shrinking because we only want to move forward, right?
Mhm.
So we're going to go ahead and move forward. There's three things you need to be wealthy.
Mhm.
Three things in your future. I'm not going to say you're going to get ultimately rich really quickly by doing these three things. And it's all hypothetical. So don't hit me up on Instagram and be like, why am I not rich yet? Listen, results may vary, but this is really how you build wealth in this life.
Mhm.
Avoid debt, save your surplus, basically, save what you don't spend, and invest the surplus,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And I learned that from a book called The Simple. I'll have to send you the link to it, and then
Yep, I'll link it in the show notes. No worries.
yeah, okay, good. But once you do that, then you will automatically set yourself on a path to get that snowball rolling.
Mhm.
Another thing you can do to get this snowball rolling is make sure that you don't live above your means. Do not live above your means. Do not fall into the trap of lifestyle inflation. It is so bad. Lifestyle inflation is like the worst thing because what ends up happening to everyone, and me included, I'm not perfect. You start making more money, right? And you're like,
Mhm.
oh, I'm making a little bit of money. Let me get better clothes. Let me get better house. Let me get better car. And you start going out and buying all this stuff. And then the moment something happens, which it will, as an economist, I can tell you that we go into recessions. It's a cycle.
Mhm.
They are bound to happen. Recycles happen, but we always bounce back better and stronger, right?
Mhm.
Remember that. Remember that. We always so
Positivity.
right, exactly. And like even if we did not bounce back, let's say that we went into a recession and we never bounced back. None of your money is going to be worth anything anyway. So like, I mean,
Mhm.
it's more of a win-win situation than a lose-win situation
Mhm.
because when we go into a recession, of course, you're going to lose a little bit, but hold steady, right? And then your money is going to quadruple if it's where it's supposed to be. And this is one thing I'll say about investing. And if you guys want more investing tips, you can obviously go to my profile. Never buy individual stocks. Never
Mm.
buy individual stocks. You want to be
Okay.
investing in mutual funds and index funds
Mhm.
because they are more conservative. They're more conservative and you get more bang for your buck. Because when you invest in an index or mutual fund, you're investing in the whole market, not just one company. So you're putting your bets in the top 10 businesses. And if any of those businesses fail, well, they get wiped from the index. And then they put in a new, stronger, better, like newer company. So you never lose with an index fund. That's all I'm going to say. That's one investing tip that will guarantee you that you get your return on investment.
Mhm.
And that usually goes like 8% per year. So like you can see usual returns of 8% per year. And that varies. I will not say that that's guaranteed. But yeah, you want to be avoiding debt, saving your money, and investing in surplus. And that's the big three things you want to be doing. And I promise you, if you just focus on those three things, then you will be set. And think of percentages. Save a certain percentage of your income, invest a certain percentage of your savings.
Mhm.
And, if you have bills, make sure that you have that percentage set out and that you have it ready each paycheck you're getting. Right. And if you can't do that, and that's too much right now, this is a small start to it, but just save 10% of your income. All income, just save 10% of it. That's a rule of thumb for anyone first starting out, and learn how to manage that, living on 90% of your income, and never touching that 10%. Because once you do that, you'll start to gain emergency fund money, or you'll start to gain investing money, because you definitely want that emergency fund money. Like, most Americans cannot do a $1,000 emergency
Mhm.
without using credit cards or going into bad debt. I want to say it's like 70% of the country. Don't quote me on that. But it is like, it's a bad chunk of people. And they don't teach you this stuff in school. They do not teach you this stuff in school. And they will not, because when you're in school, you're young and you don't necessarily need it. That's behavioral economics. Behavioral economics says that if you're young and you don't really need it right now, it's just gonna fly right over your head. But once you get older and you actually need it, that's when the classes are really needed. But you're not in school at that point anymore. And why would you go take a course if, I can handle my money myself? I'm fine. No, you're not fine. You need to get it down packed, tracking, journaling, all that good stuff. Write this stuff down. How much did you save this time? How much did you spend this time? Just tracking your saving and spending will change the game forever. You will see how much stuff that you spend. Well, how much money you spend. You don't spend stuff, but how much money you spend overall, and how much is going out towards stuff that you don't even need. Like, I think about all the purchases I've made. Like, I bought like electronics that I don't even use. Like, I use it for a month and it was like $500. I'm like, that's a $500 I could have saved. So know your impulses.
Mhm.
Know what's your trigger, and sit on your trigger. So like, be like, okay, I will wait one day to purchase this. And if after one day you absolutely need it still, then do what you have to do. But like, do not buy everything you see as soon as you see it.
Mhm.
And there's just so much more I can say on it, Kinsey, but they'll have to
I
just come to my
know.
channel.
Well, I was just thinking, I was like, well, shoot, dude, we're going to have to bring you back for another podcast interview sometime in the future soon, because I know that you're just going to be like climbing, making that name for yourself in this finance stuff. Like, I love how passionate you get about whatever you're talking about. It is so wonderful. And also, I love what you said about the percentages thing. That's something that I think a lot of us need a perspective in, especially when we're just starting out in entrepreneurship. Like, I love that you applied the percentages thing to like your savings and all that stuff when it comes to money, but also percentages. Like, that's something that I've learned actually listening to podcasts of different, like higher kind of more successful, way ahead in the game
Yeah,
entrepreneurs, where, they're talking about, especially like a breakdown of their profits or a breakdown of how successful
always
their
percentages.
course launch. It's always percentages. And it's so funny. And I know you'll get this because I've launched the social map 4 times now. And I think partially for me, it's selling becomes so personal. And so on that like micro level, because I know every single person who's like been showing up in my brand vibe challenge. And I know every single person who I've been having the conversations with in the DMs, and just, I want them to join because, I want them to join my course, but also because like I know them and I would love to work with them. Um, and so for me with the course launch, sometimes it's been a little bit difficult because I have such high goals of like, I want 30 people, but I want Ashley and I want Rebecca and I want
Right.
like these individual people. And so sometimes I've like find myself going down into that hole where I'm like, oh, like, I don't think, like I really wanted this person to join. I really wanted this person to join. They didn't, like this time around, or they gave me the
Right.
whole, it's not right, whatever. But a lot of times my coaches and mentors have been like, Kins, you got like this percentage open rate, this percentage conversion rate, this per percent. And that's like awesome results, lady. You know what I mean? And so it's so funny. I love that you gave that shift for financials. And I also want to encourage people to just like look at percentages. I think that it's important to look at solid numbers and look at percentages, probably no matter what you're doing really in life
Mhm.
for your business.
Yeah, I agree completely. Like you can't, no, don't discount actual numbers. That would be bad. Oh,
Mhm.
ah, no, no, no. That's totally important too. But I think that percentages really give you perspective on what you're doing. Like I recently heard a quote, I forget who it's from. Oh, I really need to remember. I need to write down who I get these quotes from. I
You're
just listen
good.
to so many people. So like looking at net worth is useless because
Mhm.
it's not relative. It's not relative at all. Like net worth towards what? Like if he's worth $1 billion, right? And someone else is worth like $50,000 and they're making like $400 a day and he's only making like $2 a day, who's really like more worth it? It's all about
Mhm.
relativity. This life is about relativity. So the numbers are really important, but the numbers in comparison to what? And
Mhm.
I really learned that in economics is that you got to always keep that relativity into something. Like you're always comparing it to something else. Just like success, we always compare ourselves to like our peers or people that we look up to. And nothing's wrong with that. It's only when you look at that negatively that's when it's wrong. But if you're using it as like constructive way to get ahead and a constructive way to push yourself, then that's when it is a good thing. So you always want to look at the relativity of things. So you're like, okay, I want this person to be converted. I want that to be this and that, right? Okay, can
Mhm.
we compare that to last month?
Mhm.
Like, where were we at last month? Were we doing these numbers last month? Did we have this conversion ratio this month, last month? Right? And you just have that standpoint of, I'm doing a lot better or I'm doing a lot worse, right? It's
Mhm.
always relativity. And once you have that like comparison going, like you can always look at your past work and be like, okay, what did I do to get those results? Like, can I repeat
Mhm.
those results? And of course you can because you're amazing. But like, can I repeat those results or can I double those results? And we always want to look to double those results. We always want to see where we can cut the corners efficiently, not lazily. We don't want to cut corners lazily. We always want to be efficient and good at our job because anything worth doing is worth doing good, right? And we want to make sure that we can go ahead and double our revenue and double all that stuff. So, life is a lot about relativity and being efficient, also knowing your numbers. Right. I think it's very important what you said to know the numbers. I looked at Shark Tank, like the one episode where the lady didn't know her numbers and they tore into her, man. And I never want that to happen to me if I ever go on Shark Tank for anything. It was so scary.
Oh man. Okay. Well, good thing you learned the lesson. Okay. First thing I have to share with you, I love what you said there because true comparison syndrome when it comes to whatever is horrible. You know what I mean? And so often, and I find that with myself with like my launches and all those things, like that's why I find myself kind of like getting into that imposter syndrome or being like, oh my gosh, like I didn't reach this or that. And they're like, the percentages are great, and like look at your improvement from last time. I love that you said that. And also, I have to share with you, I think you'll love this analogy. These ladies I listen to sometimes called their podcast is Strategy Hour, and they do like a profit breakdown a lot of times, like for each month and stuff. And they talk about because in the entrepreneurship industry, a lot of people want to like boast about their shiniest, biggest numbers. I feel like when they're speaking to
Yeah.
their audience, like the big revenue. And I actually had this chat with my podcast editor, Emily, during her episode. Like, not a lot of people talk about, like, is that what you want? Like, do we always want to be growing for that big number? How much are you spending to get to that big, shiny revenue
Mhm.
number? What's your actual profit and whatnot? And the strategy hour ladies always talk about how they want they don't want the shiny sports car business of like making that big revenue goal. They want the comfy dad bod business. Where it's like, we're not like looking to grow necessarily. We're not looking to grow our revenue, our big like number. We're looking to grow our profit. Right.
Right.
And so I thought and I love that dad bod analysis. But anyway, last question. I think, and I love what you said about know your numbers. And I think a lot of people maybe who grew up with like parents who were in debt or parents who were having trouble with this. I feel like a lot of my generation, our parents were just getting introduced to the credit cards and spending. And then we grew up with those parents and now numbers are scary for us. Right. And so I've run into this in my business. Have you run into that at all? And like, do you have any thoughts on like, if the numbers are scary or not?
Yeah. Okay. So I will definitely answer this question, but then I have to get running.
Yeah.
So one thing that is just so scary to humans is money and looking at money and counting money and knowing your numbers about money. And just, if you have a credit card debt that's over like $200, you do not want to look at it. You do not want to see that monster of a beast. Myself, I never wanted to look at my student debt. I was like, I'm going to have so much student debt. I don't even want to look at the number. It's just going to scare me and gross me out. But thing about it, guys, is that you have to get over that phobia because that's the only way to conquer it. It's like when you were scared, and I was one of these kids, when you were scared of the dark, and your mom's like, there's nothing in the dark. There's nothing here. Like, you're fine. And you're just like, but mom, the scary thing under my bed. And then she turns on the light and there's nothing under your bed. Or she turns on your light and that shadow was literally just a shadow and there's no scary monster there. We get so scared of the unknown. And the only reason why it's scary is because it's unknown. Like, you don't want to look at the stuff because you just don't know how high it is. But when you look at it, you're like, oh, wow, what was I so scared about? That's crazy. You know, I heard this story once and it was about a guy and he was being chased by what he thought was a tiger. And as he was running, everyone's like, turn around. Like, what are you so scared of? And he's like, it's going to eat me. And like, every time he looked back, like it was this, well, no, he wouldn't even look back. He was that scared. And so like, it was this giant tiger. And like, as he was running, it was getting giant and bigger in his mind. That's what he's thinking. He's thinking this thing is getting huge and it's this super scary tiger. And everyone's like, turn around. And he's like, no, it's going to kill me. And then, you know, he turns around because they finally get to him. And when he turns around, it's a kitten.
You're so wonderful.
Yeah. And that's how like we get super scared about these things, but they're really nothing, because I'll tell you what, the human brain is one of the most immaculate supercomputers ever conceived on the face of the earth. And I don't care if you're religious or not, we can all agree that humans are very special and indeed uniquely created, right? And if you have such a supercomputer in your brain, that means you can solve most of the problems that this life is going to throw at you. We have the processing power to light up a whole country for 4 hours with just our electrons in our brain. Like, figuring out what you can do about the scary things in life are not so scary once you actually get into them. And that's how I'll answer that question.
I love it so much. And I love chatting with you so much. Jaylin, will you please tell everyone how they can get in touch with you and maybe shoot you a DM being like, why am I not rich yet?
Yeah, if any of you ask me that, I'll be like, you're not working hard enough. So you can reach me on my Instagram at Jaylin is alive, Jaylin is alive. And I will definitely text you back. I love meeting new people and I love seeing new faces. And we can even meet up if you guys want. I am super social. Anyways, thank you so much for having me on the Feel Good Social Podcast. I've been waiting for this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, there you have it, my friend. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, if you did enjoy this chat with Jaylin, please share this episode to your Instagram stories. Make sure you tag me at Feel Good Social and Jaylin at Jaylin is Alive. I've linked him down in the show notes below, so definitely connect with him. But we would both love to connect with you in the DMs. We're both super friendly, and I would love to reshare and give you a follow as well. Thank you so much for tuning in once again, and I will catch you next time I catch you. Thanks so much for listening, my friend. For show notes and a whole lot of other awesome freebies, visit feelgoodsocial.com. Simply go to feelgoodsocial.com for all the goods.